Okay, it is recording. So it is about 6:30 p.m. and welcome to week number 4. Week number 4 of drugs and crimes. We've had some pretty interesting first 3 weeks. I provided you with a lot of information concerning things that are happening, and then I'm sure contemporaneously that if you pay attention to the news in the areas where you live, that you run across some of the issues. The opioid crisis is just unusually out of order. A student asked me about SB 3023 that I gave you information on and told you to take a look at it. Yes, Illinois is the only state and that is doing that and setting it. And I encourage everybody to go look at it and see. And what that legislation, again, is doing is setting the trend across the country to allow diversion tactics that are used for individuals to help individuals who will come and turn themselves in. It's kind of like, you know, the thing that happened when people with guns, turning in guns with no questions asked and to get the guns off the streets. Well, this is an opportunity for individuals who need help to get off of the drugs, which will, of course, operate positively in terms of cutting into them becoming a repeat offender or recidivist. Because as we discussed time and time again, and recognizing that there's a very, 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 very strong correlation between drug use and crime. People commit crimes to support their drug habits, and that oftentimes these aren't bad people, but they become bad people because they become convicted and because of the actions that they take to satisfy the drug. They are often killed or either injured or will injure or kill somebody else. And so anyway, programs like this give law enforcement the opportunity to let those individuals get help. Instead of taking them before a judge, they will, and the courts, as I said earlier, are very happy to help this because it helps the course load, the caseload, should I say. And so the benefits to the community are tremendous. So this is going to be something that I'm sure people are going to be looking at all over the United States. In your state, where you're in Florida, Minnesota, the place where many of our students have campuses, Wisconsin, Kansas, and North Dakota. Those are, and of course here in Illinois where we're doing it, these are the states that our students are in, and it may be something that you learn yourself. Maybe your legislators would be interested in learning about, because just remember this. You can't lock up criminals forever unless they commit an offense that calls for life. And if you have the death penalty in your jurisdiction, you know that. But you got to remember that the only thing that's really going to help is to provide assistance for these students. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit in just a few minutes. So just wanted to share a little bit more about that law that is. And by the way, as I speak to you right now, I haven't found out if even the governor has signed that. It passed the House and the Senate in Illinois, but we are awaiting the signature of the governor, and I'm going to do some follow-up to see what happens with that, because and this is an election year in United States for governors. Our Illinois already has a heated race, and so the current governor, it would probably behoove him to sign this legislation, because remember what the law, if you read the statute and do the research and the intention, It is not mandating that all jurisdictions accept this program, all counties. It's Lake County, Illinois, that's doing this, and specifically, it's Mundelein, a city, but the county court is on board in Lake County. One of the biggest counties in Illinois is Cook County, and as far as I can determine at this particular point, they haven't gotten on board with that, but it would be interesting. And then where I'm currently in, Will County, where I am, it is something that would be beneficial as well. But what it does is it encourages agencies to begin to look at individuals in terms of dealing with narcotics. Now, remember this. I'm not talking about big quantities. I'm not talking about individuals selling huge quantities. I'm not talking about kilos and all that stuff. I'm not talking about the big quantities. I am basically talking about the street people, the people who are distributing this stuff. They're the ones who end up getting caught. And they get caught because not only do they generally sell it, but they use it as well. And so the point of the matter is that there's a whole lot of people who fall into the criminal justice system who fit the mode of using the product that they sell. And so those are the people that could receive benefits in terms of help with these kind of things. So, you know, let's keep looking at that, going in the direction of the necessity, as we've been talking about for the first 3 weeks, for help for these people, looking at it as a medical as opposed to a criminal problem, and just changing the law, legalizing some of these things. Let's say, hypothetically, if they legalize cocaine, which I doubt, and I hope not, but they're in the process of legalizing marijuana across the country. But even if they legalized it, it's still, the problem is still not whether it's legal or illegal. It's what the drug does to individuals and what it caused them to do. Even if it's legal, they're still going to commit crimes to support the habits. If they're on cocaine, if they're on heroin, and also, once again, there are specific dangers. Do you not know that even with legalizing marijuana, there are some problems? Because what happens is that people will still get marijuana from people that are not licensed to sell it, because the marijuana they sell has to be pure and at a certain level. But much of the marijuana that's out here is laced with other things, which makes it deadly and can cause serious injuries to individuals. So anyway, just a little bit sharing that with you before we get into the material. So let's go right into what we got here. All right. All right, now let me, okay. So now let me share the content. Here we go. I learned that if we don't share the content, you will not see it. But here I am, if I'm looking for my note that says I am sharing it. So of course, you see the home page. I always refer students back to the home page because many of you in all of my classes miss this statement. Not the first one, but the second one, which is here. It's in the rubrics, and it's also in the modules themselves. All, not some, all written assignments should be in APA format. And some of you have the idea that APA format is satisfied by just submitting references at the end. But notice what the statement is. It says citations in the body and not or, and references at the end. And so it's very, very, very important. And then I also require some of you, not many, you will lose a point if you don't have a cover sheet. So let's say theoretically you write a good paper, and the paper is 25 points, but then you don't put APA in properly. If you put it partially in, you still haven't satisfied it. It's like you're not half right. You're either right or you're wrong on APA. And I haven't enforced it, but it also requires 12-point Roman in terms of your fonts. I haven't been dogmatic about that, but that's something that you need to be aware. And why do I keep bringing it up if I'm not really enforcing it? Because someone will further down the road in terms of it. So I've had students to say, my other professors, they don't do that. I can't speak for them. I know that it's in our rules, and that we discussed this in the syllabus, and important that this information be enforced. It's a school policy, and APA is the system that they put in for us to use. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm not going to go against the policies of the college in terms of things, and I know why they're doing that. And so I'm going to be dogmatic about APA. I'm not going to let it go. There's only one class that I have, which is J250, Introduction to Corrections, one assignment, which is your interview. Those of you who've taken that class with me know what I'm talking about, week 7, where it doesn't require references, but it says even in the context of the material that, oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I remember, I know a lot of you guys in this class have had that class with me. And so the point of the matter is that that's the one exception to the rule. That's of all the classes I teach, that's the one exception when it comes to written assignments that takes place. There were a few courses that I taught that I don't teach anymore because they don't have it, and it had to do with communication, written and oral communication in criminal justice for law enforcement, that there was not heavy in APA. But be aware, if there is a lot of paper writing, guys, APA is important, and it's so important that we discuss it with you. And I also have, look at the top of my page, APA Assistance. The course homepage will help you. And so I've had students that come back and says, I missed that. I says, that's because you're not reading the requirements in the module and the rubric. And you'll see as we go through the rubric, if you don't see APA in my rubric, you point it out to me, you're going to see it. So anyway, I have to say that because I feel bad for many of my students who submit very good papers, but then I have to put the however in there, that you didn't satisfy the APA requirements. So let's step up citations in the body and references at the end. And I apologize for those of you who are doing it well, but there's too many students who are not. And every lecture I do, I'm going to remind students of this. And when I grade papers, I am caught up. I'm now starting week 4 grading. And so, matter of fact, week 3, you just finished week 3 last night, or not last night, Sunday. So week 3 for the T2 classes, of which this class is, I hope to have all grading completed by Sunday, this Sunday, if not by Saturday. So just do that for me. Very, very, very important. Okay. So now let's get down to our recordings, reminding you that we have we're at week 4 now, so we got 2 more lectures to go, and then the quarter will be over. So tonight I will, and then your recordings are, once again, you can look at them anytime you get ready. You don't even have to have your special stuff. All you got to do is Look on YouTube. But you got to have the link to get to them because I have them private so that the public doesn't get to them. So I have to provide you with the link, which I do, and I email them to you as well. Okay? So now let's get right into our requirements for the week. Drug-related criminal activity. The law enforcement perspective. So we're going to speak to it from the law enforcement perspective. And I've kind of been talking a little bit about how that is going in a different direction based on what we're proposing here in Illinois. Again, that is a possibility, but we're going to talk about in general about how it's operating across the United States and where we are falling short, or as you already know, the war on crimes, war on drugs is not working so well because we're not addressing the customers. And that's what I'm expressing. We gotta take away, if there's no customers for it, it stops. If there's nobody using the drugs, it stops. The more people that stop using the drugs, the more the problem will diminish and go away eventually, which that's a dream. So you read chapter 6 and 7 of Drugs, Crime, and Justice. Let me go back. And one of the reasons why I'm so dogmatic about this whole thing about helping people is because of something that all of you probably know or have. Either you have personally someone in your family, or maybe you have had battles with it and you overcame it. But here's my whole point. Every one of us know people who have been adversely affected by drugs in their families. My baby sister and my sister before that, of my 8 sisters. My baby sister is gone. And I think the one before that, we haven't heard from her since '94. And the last time we knew, she was down in Atlanta, stuck someplace and asking for money. And I wouldn't give her money because I knew what was going on and wanted to get her some help. But she disappeared on me. The point of the matter is that it's at a level, guys, where it's now hitting not just urban areas, but suburban areas. It's not based on your class level or your financial level. Wealthy people, it's affecting as well. So it's a serious issue that we got to get to, as I say in the vernacular of street terms, the nitty-gritty, or to the heart of it. And the heart of it is the person who's addicted and addressing that issue. Anyway, so dealing with the combating drug trafficking organizations, and that's DTOs, and law enforcement's response to the heroin epidemic. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Then your discussion assignment is forfeiture, which is very interesting. I had to deal with some of those when I was practicing law. And basically what forfeiture involves is if you commit a crime, for example, drugs, and you're driving somebody a car or something, that car is seized, and or if it's determined that you're a drug dealer and you bought the car with no apparent basis for being able to demonstrate you can afford to buy that car, those cars are then often confiscated, and often those cars end up as police cars, unmarked police cars. You guys are familiar with the DARE program? The DARE program, you familiar with that? Yes. DARE is a program. Oh, great. And so it's important because what it does is it goes to the schools. My daughter, who's she's 10 and she's in the 5th grade, she talked to us about our DARE officer coming. And on the side of the car, it says DARE. Well, let me tell you about those cars. Usually those are cars that have been confiscated in drug situations and converted to law enforcement's use, and they're used, the funds they do that. They'll get funds that they take in cash, and they'll buy cars and put DARE on it, to help the children. And it's a good acronym because it tells you what we're daring you not to do this, and they're officer friendly kind of situation where the officer comes in. But anyway, forfeiture is how a lot of those vehicles end up. You'll sometimes be driving down the highway and you're doing your thing, and there's a car that pulls up, and all of a sudden you see flashing lights. You don't never see them before that. It looks like a Corvette. Those are good. They use those a lot. Corvairs. They use now they're using other kinds of vehicles. They're using vans and things like that, SUVs. But they get right up on you, and then they pull you over, and the lights come on, and then you say, "Hey, I didn't know that was a police car." And said, "Dag, if I didn't know the police car was right in the area, I wouldn't have been speeding." Well, you're not supposed to be speeding anyway. So you get my point. Is that so? Forfeiture ends up resulting in supplying those things for law enforcement. There are ways of getting vehicles back and things like that. If the person who owns the vehicle, for example, I had a case where I represented the parent of an individual who wasn't my client, her car was taken by her son, but he wasn't my client. And he was represented by somebody else, but she hired me to get her car back. Well, she was an innocent party. She didn't know he was doing what he was doing. She didn't know what kind of crime, so I'm using drugs for this instance, that he had drugs in the car and stuff. Well, they impounded the car and took it. Well, I filed a petition to get her car back, indicating that she was an innocent party, and I was able to prove that, and she got her car back. But the point of the matter is that if you're not an innocent party, or it's your car and you commit the crime and you're arrested with it, then in that situation it's going to be taken. Finally, complete the course project, heroin and opioids, the law enforcement perspective, and then there is the quiz. And I've already indicated several times to you guys, try to do your quizzes at the end of the week. Your quizzes and your course project are not due until Sunday, this Sunday. So you want to try to get it in. I think that's the 2nd. I think I'm right. Saturday is the 1st, Sunday is the 2nd. And I know it's a Labor Day weekend, but I'm going to be working and grading just like everybody else. I'll take a barbecue break or so, because that's the last hurrah before the next holiday. And you know what the next holiday is. It's called Thanksgiving. Okay. So anyway, and then the final thing is complete your mid-quarter survey. Okay. And then I don't have to tell you about my motto. All you guys know. Those of you who were in my class before heard it again this quarter, and you're going to always hear it in every class that I do, because I want students to understand why I am how I am about this stuff. And that's why I'm tough, too, on your grading. I mean, I'm not unreasonable, because I tell you my expectations up front. But don't apply what some other teacher does in my class. And the reason why is because I told you, based on my experiences in life, that I want to produce educated, professional, and ethical students. And so I'm working on the educational part. When you leave my class, I guarantee you, you know your stuff if you followed the material, because I'm not gonna let you go by without giving it to you. Now, it's up to you if you want to take it. But I'm here. I am here 24/7, just like my thing says. All right. So, Professor Wright, sometimes you tend to get on your soapbox, of course, because when I see something happening, I have to talk about it for the benefit of everybody. And you all have parents, and some of you are parents, so you understand where I'm coming from. All right. It's not punitive. It's to help you. All right. Course tools. Let's take a look at the course calendar real quick. Okay, so here we are at the last week of the month, starting with Monday, which was the 27th. Your reading assignment, again, as I encourage you, you already should know this. Clicking on this will open it up, and they'll tell you something that you already know. But there you find it right there, as well as you found it in the announcement. Your initial post about your lecture, your reply post. Then your course project, which I tell you look in the module and rubric, which we will be doing in just a minute. And then your quiz. Your quiz, which is timed, and I tell you that. So, all right, so that's the course calendar. And then we repeat that same thing. Before you know it, we'll be at September 14th. September 14th, and keep this in mind. I'm not surprising you that the last day of class is a Friday, because I'm telling you it over and over, but it's also in your calendar at the very beginning of the course that was laid there for you. Last day is not the Sunday after that. It is that Friday as well, which is September 14th, okay? Some people are visual, so since people are visual, I want to do this. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. Show you. Looking ahead. Okay, so there's that last week repeated. See, this is week 5 right here. And look at what happens when we get to week 6. See that? The 14th. There it is right there. And I've not only tell you there's a final exam due, but look at my little note on here. If you click on this, it tells you that the quarter ends on that day. So, all right. So, students said, "Oh, I missed that." Well, I give it to you so you have it, and I don't want. I can't do anything. It's a school rule. Okay, it's like trying to tell the IRS that my taxes I knew were due on the 15th, but I filed them on the 16th. They said, "Thank you for filing your taxes, but you're going to be penalized." Well, the penalty you'll get in filing, submitting an assignment is a 0 for that assignment. I don't care how good it is. I won't even read it. I can't. I'm not supposed to, and I won't. Okay. All right. Let's move along and go to week 4. And I'll look at our module. Again, I encourage you for all your assignments. I've talked about this. We have an awesome, awesome guide. You click on that. Click on it. There it is. Come on. Come on. There we go. And there it is. And it tells you for each module. You can click on it. So we're in module number 4, right? It tells you some things, and it provides you with step-by-step to help you with doing everything that you need to do. You know, tells you what to do to get your course project going and all of that stuff. And then I've already told you about your exam. But, you know, you got it. Each week you have it. This is unique in this course, which that's why I said, man, they did a bang-up job as far as I'm concerned about how they did this. So in this particular course, I take my hat off to Patty Laney and I forgot the other person who's a police officer, but Patty and I worked together. And some of you know her, and you had her. Yes, I do too. I never met her either. She was a prosecutor, and I was a defense attorney, and I was a prosecutor a little while, but I was primarily, and we have worked together on getting courses together, including this course. She did the work, but I did the complaining about how it used to be when it was 11 weeks. It was horrible because all they did was talk about the medical side of it. They talked about the technical chemicals of drugs and not about the issues like that. This is really a good class. I love teaching this class. I really do. I really do. Because it's really contemporaneous. So anyway, your course project, which it tells you in. Now let me show you something. It tells you in capitals. How many times I've seen papers that are 2 pages long, and then a student tell me I didn't have enough information to fill up 3 pages. I said, yeah, I know, you already answered the problem. So get more information. I already told you, they tell you how to find it. They tell you information. And then there's these bullet points to discuss these bullet points right here. And don't make me these, don't give me this. I had students that put me with margins on the left, margins on the right. They're wider to fill up and look like 3 pages. I'm not going to go for that. I'm not going to go for it. And do it double spaced, not single spaced. Not a lot of you do single spaced, but some do. And so anyway, it says minimum. That's one place you're going to see that comment. Okay, let me move you guys over here. Okay. The other place you're going to go down, and it's going to tell you 3. Tells you 3. Look at how highlighted that is. And then other critical information. Reliable sources. Then it says another bold thing. Other than your textbook. And not to use Wikipedia. I haven't had very many students to do that. But every time you use Wikipedia, you're going to get dinged for that. Because we're telling you up front. And then, just in case you didn't hear me earlier, it tells you here, visit this guide and click on the Module 4 tab for recommended resources to aid in completing assignments. Man, you got it. Man, when I was in school, we didn't have nothing like that. This is like follow the yellow brick road, okay? And you'll get to Crystal, Emerald City, whatever that place was. Yeah, Emerald City. So you'll get the A. You'll get the good grade on the assignment, okay? And then submit it, according to the Dropbox. And then your discussion, and then, of course, your quiz, okay? Now, I'm going to go back and show you something by clicking on the assignment, which is what you do. And when you open it, it's going to tell you, first thing, when it's due, 11:59 p.m., Sunday, as I said that already. Wait a minute. Am I looking at this right? That's wrong. That's wrong. Don't pay attention to that, because you already said, wait a minute, professor. The assignment is 28. It's actually the following. So that was my bad. And I can fix that. I can fix that. Matter of fact, let's do that right now. Let's fix it, professor. But anyway, the rubric. I'll fix that in a minute. Let's go to the rubric first. You'll see the rubric says some of the same things. These are all the same points, but I don't have the bullet points in there about what you cover. But notice down here, it says the same thing. 3 credible resources, and then it says that a minimum of 3 pages as well. So we already know from reliable sources, and we know not to use the textbook. But then the bottom part is APA. APA, and it says for you, title page, reference page, title page, and reference page, proper spacing, paragraph. Look, all sources are properly cited as in text in the body. That's APA, and not to use Wikipedia. Okay, so we go to that. Now, I'm going to go back while I got you on, show you how I fix stuff here. This is how I fix my errors. I'm going to do it right here while I got you. Go back to my assignment. So I go to edit. You can't do this, by the way. The system won't allow you, so I don't care if you do see it. I'm not letting you in on a secret. So I go back here, and it says due date. So I go back to my nice little calendar, and then I change it to the 2nd. Same time, same bat channel. Go down here, all the way down. I'm covering it. Get your face out of there, right? There we go. Click submit. Click it again. There we go. Okay, now let's go look at it. And it should say right now. There. See, I fixed it. Okay, so that's how, that's a little trick. That's how I do that. So now it's the due date. So it is Sunday. It was not last Sunday. Okay. Professors make mistakes too. All right. So now, any questions about the assignments or any of those things that are due for week 4? Type in yes or no. That's the advantage of being here, is that if there are some, we can deal with them here. Any questions? Okay. Any questions? Yeah, it does cover a lot. But because here's what's happening. Remember this. You're only doing this written assignment and your quiz, and you're already used to discussion posts. So it's not like, okay, if you were in the class that Laura indicated, the J250 class, Introduction to Corrections, you had 2 written assignments a lot of times. Am I right? Right, Laura? You had, yeah. And I had to just think about it. You know, it didn't make me jump up and down either, because I had to grade those assignments. So, that, yeah, the interview was fun. And remember what the purpose of the interview is as I said to you guys when you were in that class, is that, and that's when you get into field stuff. When you're actually now hearing out of the mouth of people who are actually doing the job what they're saying, and it puts together what you learn in the classroom together what's happening in the industry as you are getting closer to it. And it's like work study, it's like internship, but you know, you're like, you look at the TV and you see interviews by reporters, and that's what you're really being. You're being a reporter in criminal justice about learning what they say is on the job taking place, and you put the 2 together. So, and that prepares you for being really good at what you do. So, yep. Okay, let's get into, it is 7:08, so let's get into our section here. We've done that. Let's go back to 4. And let's go to the lesson content. Okay, so you know the objectives that we're talking about, what happens, you know, smuggling, trafficking, so forth and so on, a drug manufacturing, and all the kind of things that happen, and what law enforcement is faced with, and what law enforcement has to deal with in enforcing the laws on the book. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this section and this section before we adjourn. Okay, so the war on crimes, where the organizations, the DEA, the states all have some form of organization to deal with these. The customs people, the border patrol people, are all dealing with the issue. And as you should know, most drugs, other than the manufactured drugs, but remember the stuff that even that they use for many of these drugs, like heroin and things of that nature, the opioids, are imported from other countries. And they mentioned China, and they mentioned Mexico among a few. And so the products come to this country in all kind of ways. There are people that are what they call mules. And the way it operates is that, for example, I'll use Mexico, is that smuggling in heroin. Let me tell you something that is really true, and I know about this very well since working in law enforcement also, is that there are individuals who are in Mexico, and they will put this heroin in a balloon, fill a balloon with it, and it's not real big balloon, but sometimes they use condoms and they tie a knot and they'll swallow them and they'll have them in their body. So then they come across the border and they'll check. There's nothing. They find it, and then they go to the washroom. They're given a laxative. They go to the washroom. Yes, it's gross, but it's true. I'm telling you, it's how it works. And then they get it and they fish it out and they take it and they deliver it to wherever they need to. And that's sickening just hearing that. But here's what happens all too often. Yeah, yeah, you're about right. But let me tell you what happens all too often. The tragic part is those balloons rupture. And when they rupture, what do you think happens to the person? Yep, 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 yep. Both of you are right. Overdose. And the individuals will die. And they don't care, because you know what they do? They'll pay them. But guess when they get paid? There we go. You must be working with the DEA or something. Yes, absolutely. Correct. After delivery. So it's like a contract that's done. You're going to deliver certain goods to the buyer, and you don't get paid till the buyer gets the goods. Those kind of things. So yeah, and that's the deal. And that's one way. Another way is that computers that appear to be computers or laptops, they will be hollow, and they will import them in that. They will import them in vehicles that cross the border, and you've probably heard that before. Phony gas tanks. They'll have a gas tank, but they'll have phony mufflers, you name it. Phony sections of the trunk and even the side of the vehicle. It's all kinds of they'll stuff the seats inside under the leather and everything. They'll have it in there. And so there's all kinds of ways that it takes place. And so it's a big business. It's a big business. Now, there are people, and I know someone this happened to. They were a mule, and they were sent on vacation to go to, wasn't Mexico, it was one of the islands someplace down in Jamaica or someplace. Anyway, wherever they went, then they strapped it on themselves like a body pack, and they put it under their clothes. But they got busted. How do you think this person got busted at the airport? Oh, you're on it. That's exactly right. Dogs sniffing dogs. And now you go to the airport most time, you don't really see, but boy, when they suspect it, they'll pull you aside and then they'll bring the dogs. They'll come. And when they go, whoa, they let you know when they've come up with it. And then they do a strip search. Oh, by the way, cavities. People put it in their cavities, as not the mouth like teeth or something, the bottom part, and females as well. And it's just you'll be amazed at some of the things if you ever study this stuff, and I did study it quite a bit. So anyway, it talks about these countries distributing opium and heroin, adding different ingredients like fentanyl and carfentanil to which is sold on the streets, and people get this as a synthetic drug. But here's what I'm trying to get across to you: they can't make the synthetic drug if they don't have the foundational drugs of heroin and cocaine. So there's an article in here that if you take the time to go through, and I'm not, you'll see what I'm talking about. But these organizations, the cartels you heard of. Now, everybody heard the name El Chapo? El Chapo Guzman? Oh, yeah. He's like one of the most notorious of the drug cartels out of Mexico. And he has people that are terrorized down in Mexico. If somebody gets caught or something, he'll have their family executed and things like that, or he'll execute them if they don't participate and do it. But these cartels are in Latin America and in Mexico. The cartels operate out of, like I said again, some of the islands, Jamaica, the Bahamas, Puerto Rico. And so we have to know, and they mention here a few of those cartels, Sinaloa cartel, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, Juarez cartel, the Gulf cartel, Los Zetas cartel, La Familia cartel, Beltran cartel. There was a cartel that the Herreras, they imported what we call brown, I think it was brown heroin, and it was in the Chicago area, and it was in an area where I was going to high school, and it was a whole lot of Mexican people lived in that area, and they were always having big cars always in that area. And then finally we found out what was going on, but they were known as the Herrera cartel. But oftentimes they enforce it by violence, violence. And their wars where each are fighting, just like drug dealers. That's why we have so many gun shootings and gun killings in the urban areas, is these individuals are shooting at each other, but then unfortunately innocent people, because they're not the best shots, are getting killed. And so what it is, when we talk about gang wars, we might as well refer to them as drug wars, but they're on the street level part. But what I'm talking about here at this moment is not the street. I'm talking about big quantities, huge quantities. And so then you have the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, dealing with that. And they're all over. They're all over the United States and the world. And they're working with some of the local agencies as well. So undercover bus, where the officers set up stings to buy. And that's undercover officers by bus. Wiretap investigations, where they're able to go to court and get orders to listen to the conversations that are taking place in these very sophisticated type cartels, like the one I was talking about, El Chapo being the head of El Chapo Guzman. And so it's a large, it's as big as some of the major corporations like Microsoft or Google, any of those international things. The World Wide Web is used for doing this. The social media is used for distributing these kind of things. Facebook is very well known for it. And so the DEA works in conjunction with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosive, and because there's some really, really dangerous situations. And so a lot of firearms and weapons heavily involved in that. And so state police on the state level work as well. as well as your local county and your local police, such as CPD, which stands for Chicago Police Department, work in conjunction with the federal and agencies to deal with these things. So just quickly here, look at the maps and you see all of these different influences that are down here. And it just shows you. Here's the deal. It's all around you. That's the point that you should be aware of and observe. So you take time to look at that. So now, law enforcement response to the epidemic. What is law enforcement doing? I already talked to you about one unique thing, but there are many challenges because of the increased use of these heroin and opioids. And so now you have poisonous materials that are added to these things, and in the form of pills, medication, and cafetini, which is a drug intended, listen, from elephants, you know, intended as a sedative for elephants, and you're ingesting this in your body. Heroin addicts inject laced heroin without concern for the purity. First of all, number one, they don't care. They just know it's heroin. Their body needs it. They don't care or stop to think about, is this pure heroin? Well, let me say this to you. Even if it's pure, if it's an excessive quantity, it's going to be more than the body can handle, and it's going to kill them. So, so that's what happens. And so, law enforcement sees deaths happening. So, what is now starting to happen is Narcan and naloxone, a brand name of naloxone, Narcan. It serves as an antidote. So if they are able to reach you early enough, then you will be able to survive. The problem is that they're racing to people, and oftentimes when a person ODs, they're not able to get 911 or get someone to reach there because they pass out, because it slows their breathing, and it actually will stop it. But what this drug does, the Narcan or Naloxone as comes in, it reverses, or should I say it just arrests and stops the symptoms. But remember, once again, its time is of the essence. It says here it works on overdoses of heroin and prescription painkillers, which is another thing. I'm afraid of prescription painkillers because there are many people who have become addicted because not because they were drug users, but because they got injured, they got hurt, and they had to, or had surgeries, and they had to take these painkillers. And so what ended up taking place is that when they were taking these painkillers, they became addicted to them. And then morphine. My wife was in the hospital, and she was sick, and the doctors said, you know, they were going to give her morphine. And so when they said they were going to give her morphine, I said, hold it. Whoa. Hold it a minute. I says, that's a very dangerous drug. So anyway, they said, well, sir, she's in great pain. I said, she's not in that much pain. And said, you're going to tell me that she's not in that much pain? I said, no, I would rather you not do that. And so she wasn't in a position to respond, and she did. So they gave her something else, and I don't remember what it was, but whatever it was they gave her, I was watching it. Now, I do know that my wife's mom, who was in hospice, and she was you know, she was imminently passing. She had left the hospital, came home, and that's what they gave her for her pain because she was dying from cancer. And the morphine wouldn't hurt her. It would just give her a way of life. It wasn't about addiction because she was passing. And so it was used in that situation. So the point I'm just trying to get you to understand is that individuals will start to use these things and becomes the body is craving and calling for it, and they will take them. So Narcan is an attempt, and it is it's like when you're dealing with methadone. Thank you. It came back to me. Methadone is a drug, but it's not as damaging. So they use that to deal with individuals in terms of the body craving for a drug. But anyway, the point of the matter is that the Narcan requires authorization for possession by the Drug Administration and by first responders. Now, they're working on individuals having it themselves. However, law enforcement has it right now, and unfortunately, and it's very expensive. I just heard the other day that once again in my state, because I pay close attention to things like this and bring them to my class, is that they have some funds that came from the federal government that is allowing them to use to purchase more of this, because it's a very, 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 very expensive drug. So, yeah, just that's a good point. Yeah, people do carry their own, but you get busted for it because you're not supposed to have it. Yep, yep. And forfeit your money. Hey, thank you. Good point. Good application of what's in our discussion post. Excellent observation. Yes, it is definitely true that this is used to fund the forfeiture money is another thing that's used for doing that as well. Excellent call. Thank you. Appreciate that. So the FDA approved a nasal application for Naloxone, avoiding the need for Narcan for injection. But the nasal application is still early. The first responders are trained to use that with very little training. But here's the deal, once again. We're talking about individuals who find themselves stuck in that. I have a book that I picked up at the session I did a couple of weeks ago when I got the information about SB 3023. And it was a book by a guy named Tim Ryan. Tim came to the college last quarter when I did this course. I talked about this. He was a former addict, and he tells the story about how he lost his son and how he's now a counselor. And then there was a young man with him, and they talked about these things. But there's a great book, which I don't want to, let me see. Hold on a second. Let me see if I got it right here. Oh, yeah, I do. Here it is. It's called From Dope to Hope. From Dope to Hope. And I'm holding it up here so you can see it. From Dope to Hope. And in this book, he talks about some details. Try to get the book. It's a really, really, really good book. From Dope to Hope, A Man in Recovery, Tim Ryan, R-Y-A-N. And the book is for sale. And if you want more information, and you can, let me know, and I can hook you up with the place to get it. But it's a very good book as well. Okay. And so we're at the time, we're about at our end here. These are also, there's some other information down here that you can click on. And then there's some things about drug kits and so forth. All these are different things. And boy, I tell you, when you get a chance, please Please take the time. Well, I think if I'm correct, let me check. Is this the one? I think. Let me see. Is this the one right here where? Let me see. I don't know if this is it. It's one of the assignments maybe coming up that you're going to have to look at chasing the dragon. But take time to look at this. It's a video, and when you look at this video, it's 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 a very extensive video. It's let me see. I'm not gonna show you the whole thing. Yeah, it's about a 5-minute video. Okay, I'm gonna leave it here. Can you guys hear it?
Middle school even are
Can you
starting
hear it now?
to find out what these pills are. And they might think it's fun
Okay.
at first, and then you talk to them a year, 2 years later, and you realize it's a different story. I mean, so just the degree that people go to get these pills is insane. I mean, I've seen people that drive 7 hours one way every month each way, so that's a 14-hour round trip just to get these pills because so you need a job. You can't work your job anymore because all you care about is driving up to get these pills. And I mean, your life is over because all you can focus on is how do I get these drugs. We've done search warrants in huge homes, multi-million-dollar houses, fancy cars, and we've done search warrants in houses where there's no food in the refrigerators. I remember one individual subject, I arrested his mother and his father, and also arrested him. He was injecting OxyContin, as many as 35 a day, intravenously, and he was using creek water just out of a local stream because he was living out in the woods. Everybody thinks they pop a few pills, it's no big deal. You young kids out there, you better just be very, very aware of what's going on with these pills. You can get addicted with one pill, and for the rest of your life, it will absolutely ruin you. It doesn't discriminate against you young or old, or you're black, or you're white, or you're male, or you're a female. I've arrested from 12 years old to 86 years old. I've arrested grandma and grandpa. I've arrested a young boy that takes the pills from his parents' cabinet and takes them to school and gives them to some other kids in school. And somebody gets sick, gets rushed to the hospital, and thank God doesn't die. I've worked probably at least 2 dozen overdose deaths that are 100% related to prescription meds where it's too late, they're already dead. A lot of students went down the road, a lot of young people go down the road of trying to drug for recreational purposes, and they don't understand the devastation that it has to their own life and the lives of their parents. Um, I should add, victims of the crime include infants. We have had subjects who were pregnant women who gave birth to oxycodone, opiate addicted babies and infants. They even had to have the baby in jail, and it's a growing problem as well. Seen a lot of overdoses, a lot of deaths. The scary thing is it's getting younger and younger. They used to be the heroin overdoses seemed like they were all adults. Lately they've been getting younger and younger, low 20s, even into their high teens. I've talked to hundreds of heroin addicts or opiate addicts, and they all tell me the same thing. If they could do anything, one thing different, they never would have started in the first place. That's the one regret that they all have is that they started when they were young, and once you're an addict for life. And that's the way to avoid that, just to never do it. We're seeing a dramatic shift in how it's affecting the lives of young people. They're experimenting with friends at parties, and they think it's safe to take pills from the medicine cabinet or a friend. And during a 1 week period, we had 9 fatal overdoses in a 3 jurisdiction area. And over the Christmas holiday, I read 2 obituaries of people that I had arrested for prescription fraud and related offenses. Their parents buried them. They were young, 20-some years old.
Okay,
that that's it. You know, so you see, law enforcement is trying to do things, but it's really, really, really something. And I hope that you can hear that well. If you couldn't hear it well, go back and look at it. It's only like a 5-minute video, but it's very serious. Again, I do encourage you. Like I said again, this book that I have here, I've gone through it and I've listened to this guy. I mean, face to face. He did. Listen to this book, and I'm going to adjourn from dope to hope. Let me read to you what the dedication says, and this will hit you right where I'm pointing to. This book is dedicated to my son, Nicholas James Cobb Ryan. I am sorry I was not your father to you. I was a friend. If I could turn back time, trust me, I would. You are always with me, my son. You are the driving force for me each and every day. This is written by a father of a son who he was formerly addicted. The father was formerly addicted and became a drug counselor, and that's what he does. But he couldn't help his son, his own son. He was in the process of helping others, and he went through and lost him. One of the most devastating things, and having met this man personally, and have him talk about it, and then the seminar I went to. So he is the executive director of a treatment center in Chicago. 20 years of experience in the mental health field, and he deals with this. But hey, if you're interested, again, reach out to me, send me an email, and I'll send you more details on how to get it. But you should be able to find it and then there's an organization. He has a foundation that he deals with this as well. There are pictures of him and his son in here. I don't know if you can. I don't think you can. I don't know if you can see them that well. But anyway, it's something. It's so. The point of the matter is, I'm telling you. Whew. So I am going to give you a keyword, and the keyword that I'm going to give you is letters, actually. DEA. DEA. You can write what it says out. It's okay, but DEA. And that's what I need. Okay, good night, and thank you guys for hanging out a few minutes more. But I really enjoy teaching this class. This class makes, you're welcome. It hits me in my heart, and having seen much of this in law enforcement and in my personal life, and I'm sure many of you out there can say, yes, I know what you're talking about for sure. So I'm going to say good night to you guys. I'll see you guys next week, and again, get those assignments in according to what I talked about earlier. So I'm going to end this meeting. Good night.